Michael, thank you for joining me this morning. It's a lovely Sunday morning.
It's nice to do this you do so many of these things. It's like, are you available from like 7 p.m. till 2 a.m. and we're going to,
Yeah.
talk to the wee hours of the morning. I came in and I've never done this in daylight. Like this is a completely different vibe. Drinking coffee. Yeah, this is great.
It's a nice change. That's what I've been doing for the past years. Night shows on a Friday, and I don't really want to. People, especially in the industry, they're like, "Well, I already have this event and that event." I'm like, "How about a morning? Oh, I'm free." Like, yeah, everyone's free
on a weekend morning. This feels so different. I'm really looking forward to this.
Good deal, man. Well, first, congratulations, making the top 25 by CA. For the Suma, How did you feel about that the Suma making the list? Do you think it should have been higher? You think it like where it was, or?
Look, man, to even be considered and placed is a huge win, man. I love the blend so much, and it's just exciting that that Suma in particular this year has really gotten a lot of fanfare. And look, man, we're 3 years old, so I think that also really helps to shine a little light on Ferio Tego in general. And I'm pumped, man. I'm really, really pumped. Yeah, I had no expectations.
Yeah, I didn't expect to see such a younger company on there, and I smoked the Suma just the other day. It's great. I really enjoy that one.
Thank you. I think you're firing up Arrogance right now. Yeah, as am I. And when I look at Arrogance and Generoso, I really believe those two are, not to say a step above Suma, but they're a bit more dynamic. They have a bit more nuance.
No.
Suma is very complex, but it's a little more obvious. It's a bit more of a crowd pleaser, and so I think Suma will be the more effective kind of invitation to Ferio Tego.
Gotcha. Just more of like the every person cigar,
Yeah, it's a bit more new world. It's a bit more obvious. The flavor is a little more gotcha from the beginning.
Yeah.
But the mouthfeel is still so graceful and balanced that I think it's really going to appeal to. It has appealed to a wider spectrum of folks.
Yeah, I think the first time I smoked it was on a live, and I don't really count smoking cigars for the first time because you're not paying attention at all. Like, and I was probably 3 cigars deep, and I'm like, I don't know what this tastes like. So I had one more, and I'm like, I'm gonna actually sit down and take time in the morning. That's when I typically shoot and give this thing a fair shake. And it was solid. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome.
But it was very punchy from the beginning. Very nice. I liked it a lot. So as far as the list goes, how do you feel about kind of who you are placed with?
Look, man, I mean, if you look at the list in its entirety, let's pretend for a second that they aren't ranked and they aren't scored. Maybe they were just alphabetical.
Okay.
That's some pretty prestigious company to be with. And some of the brands are legacy, some of the brands are smaller and newer like me. But that is a hell of a group to be associated with. And again, just looking at the group outside of its order or scores, I think it's a very cool assessment of what they believe are some of the best cigars that they smoked this year. Once you start getting into the ratings and the rankings, it's tricky sometimes to look at them and try and use your own methods of evaluations to reconcile some of those scores and placements.
Yeah.
But it's not my magazine. What do I care? I'm just grateful to be on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a thing that a lot of people put, because I know a lot of people had an issue with the judge being number one, which I think it's a fine cigar, but they're like, it's a really old cigar. I'm like, that's just true. But at the same time, you had people like the Suma on, and that's a fairly new cigar. So it wasn't just a low legacy.
Yeah. Right. You had a lot of smaller, particularly below number 10, like 11 and down. you had a lot of I get surprises. I think 11 and down had a lot more excitement and discovery and like, oh wow, I should check that out. 10 and above, I didn't see a cigar or a brand that I was like, wow, let me check this out. It was all kind of like, I've already had them. I've already, I can kind of say in my head, all right, that very good, very good, very good. Check the box. And they do it differently than even their sister publication, Wine Spectator. If you look at the way they review in Spectator, they review by region and by color and by varietal, and they're only reviewing the current release. So based on what vintage is released that year is what goes into review, which then goes into the rankings. Whereas with Cigar Aficionado, they're constantly reviewing what's in market, but it is not based on new release, which is why there's constantly so many legacies. And if you look at the ratings that qualify, it's also both Cigar Insider and the magazine. And a lot of the big brands get guaranteed vertical tastings. And so when you have a guaranteed vertical every year of 9 sizes, and you're making great cigars, that's 9
opportunities.
9 qualifying SKUs, for lack of a better word, that are all hitting eligibility. So it's kind of a snowball effect with some of those big guys because they're just always eligible. Whereas new guy like me, I might get a vertical once every other year or get a rating or two once every other year. And so it's just less eligible.
Yeah. So that's more impactful for you, or rather more impressive for you. Do you think that'll have a good impact in driving more people to try Ferio Tego?
God, I hope so, bro. I think what that really does is add another level of validation that what we're doing is legit. That we are really in this to win this. And I don't blame people for being skeptical of a new brand. I am too, whether it's my consumer head or a retailer, there was always skepticism when something new came out. Like, I wasn't first in line with every new thing that came out. If I tasted it and I believed in it, I got behind it. But there was a lot of wait and see. And so I think we've done a lot to help reassure those who are skeptical that we're here for the long term. And I think clearly a placement in top 25 will continue to demonstrate our long-term viability.
Sure. Yeah, I even just you placing it all made me look into you more, and I wanted to get you on some type of a show and have a chat with you because I'm not one of those people in the cigar space who knows even the back history of anyone really.
Yeah,
I show up, I smoke a cigar, I have fun, and I didn't know anything about you. The guys are like, yeah, I used to be involved in that tournament. That's all I knew, and I'm like, okay, so he's just some guy that started a cigar brand. And I look at him like, no, he's been doing this for a while, and then I look at him like, all right, he loves what he does. And I think that's another thing is people for some reason get turned off when cigar owners and brand owners want to sell their shit like it's the best they've ever had. And I'm like, why wouldn't they? It's interesting.
Is that a point of criticism? That really?
Yeah. But it's what I've found specifically in the online space, it's based off of how well they like the person's personality. Because like Sokka, that's him. But people still love him. But then like Brian, who's more outspoken, people tend to vilify that. I'm like, it's the same message. I sell the best shit, enjoy it. And that just depends on the rapper.
That's interesting. Yeah, I don't know if I come across that aggressive as I sell the best shit. But I guess I do have a perspective and I do love our work. And I think that, what we're creating is very unique. But I love the industry so much. I love what other people are doing too. You just mentioned two guys that are very dynamic and highly contributing. And, you know, Brian, I don't know as well as Steve. Steve, I've known, you know, most of my career. But, you know, anytime anyone is truly passionate about what they do and they're doing it, I guess that can be met with some pushback, but I often feel like it's the people who are mad are probably just mad because they're not doing something that they love as much as we are, you know, so maybe they can't relate.
Yeah, I think people mistake passion for arrogance sometimes, and really
That's
it's just
the point.
like you love doing this, you fall in love with things. Either I've heard that in another interview you're talking about, as creatives, we kind of just jump in with both feet, and we'll really, there's no like wading in the water. It's, you're gonna dive deep into it, and then it becomes the thing that you're obsessed with or not. That's kind of like my wife equates it to a light switch. When I'm involved in something, I'm completely on board or I'm not at all, and there's not really an in between. Like, that's just what you're doing.
Yeah. But you can also like phase out, right? I mean, you could be all in, and then, you know, we're also like easily distracted too. Like you can be all in, passionate about something until like squirrel goes by, and then you're like, oh yeah, let's go down this rabbit hole, you know?
Yeah, you got to keep it interesting, like starting an interview series. You know, otherwise you might just get burned out doing this. Yeah.
But that's, I think it takes a capacity to be passionate to even have a hobby that you love. Like, I think some people question whether they are as passionate as other people who perhaps are more obviously passionate.
Sure.
But like, if you're filming content and editing it and putting it up and talking with other people,
yeah,
it's pretty fucking passionate, man. Because there's a lot of other stuff that you could be doing with your time. That's why I'm so impressed with the amount of people who are creating content, despite the fact of whether it's particularly good.
Sure.
Like, credit where credit's due. I mean, you're putting in the work, you know? I mean, that's admirable.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think there was kind of a big boom of content creators online when COVID hit, and then things have tapered off, and then it's slowly coming back, and it's been interesting to see. There's a lot more little channels popping up, and they're talking about the cigars they like, and some of them are, you know, they're discouraged by the quality of, like, I tell people all the time, like, it's okay if you don't have nice lighting or a nice camera, just make something, and then as you get into it, you'll slowly increase and change what you do, and you can increase your equipment as you want to do that, but just create.
Man, the most important part, I think, is the voice. It's what is your message and what are you trying to say? And is it unique? And is it valuable? You know, because I also, look, a lot of people put stuff out there that they think is valuable because it's the first time they're doing it. But for people who are consuming and looking for content, if you're telling me the difference between a straight cutter, punch cutter, and V, I'm on to the next video.
Yeah.
You know, like, I've seen that video 1,000 times from 1,000 different people. And I can't imagine that your perspective is going to be so radically different. And then I think people take it personally that some of their stuff isn't being viewed, which is why I love what you do, because everything you do is unique. It's the first time you're seeing whatever it is. Even if you're interviewing someone people have already heard from, you've just got a very one-of-one perspective and approach to reviews and interviews, and obviously I think your subscribers probably see that too.
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, it's interesting. I was talking, my neighbor's getting to doing reviews, and I'm talking about doing things with him, and he's like, want to kind of like hook up with me and do kind of a creative series too, and I'm like, yeah, it'll be fun. I'm like, just no, I have a lot of hate as well. It comes with the territory of not giving a shit what the industry standard is. You get a lot of people who think they, you know, eat, sleep, and breathe this shit all day long, that they'll get offended, and that's just kind of just part of it. But the cigar industry can be so boring. I can't stand it. I'm like, we got to keep this interesting. I mean, we film ourselves sucking on leaves and put it on the internet. Like, make it somehow entertaining.
Yeah, because that alone is not. And then, God forbid, you start reviewing live with flavors and notes and I mean, now it's just like, please put me out of my misery.
Yeah. And it's like, it's fun enough. Like, do something that's entertaining. I mean, shit, I wear sunglasses and half people love it and half people think I want to die, like, or want to kill me because I wear sunglasses indoors in night, which is crazy.
Which is all crazy that somehow informs anyone's opinion.
Yes. That's what I think is hilarious. And I'm like, why does a person you don't know on the internet wearing sunglasses bother
Now,
me?
tell me something.
Yeah.
When the camera's off,
Yeah.
are the sunglasses on? Like when the camera is off, are the sunglasses on?
Oh, no, most of the time they're off. In between takes, no, I take it off.
So
I'm chilling in the dark with sunglasses on. Yeah.
Like you aren't tucking your kids into bed, reading them a bedtime story with the shades on.
Oh yeah, no. No, I love going to local cigar shops and I won't have sunglasses on, and I can tell when people may kind of recognize me, and I'm sure enough, I'll be like, hey, I was here today. Like, I did see you there. I'm like, you should have said hi. Like, I'm not gonna walk around like this. Like,
that's really funny, man.
That's wild. But no, it's just whenever I'm shooting, and it started as just I wore it on one video. Some people liked it, some people hated it, so I kept doing it.
For years, I wore suits every day for years and years and years.
Yeah.
And in my early days, or mid days, it was like 2002, maybe by 2004 to like 2010, I dressed bananas, bro. Stripes, polka dots, paisleys, different colors. It was complete insanity. And it really affected people emotionally. Like, some people were like, oh, this kid is best dressed. And then others are like, he's an idiot. And then others. But there is something important about finding something that creates a character that's memorable, so that in the absence of remembering your name or where you live or where I saw you, there's at least something that's memorable that makes someone want to go back and find that person. I think it's a very important part of marketing and showmanship. And so, you got sunglasses. What's his face? Cigar prop Kevin. He's got the rock star beard and the shop glasses. Like 100%. Everyone's got a thing. I think that's great. Brian's got hats and stuff. And the big killer, man, killer. That's memorable stuff. Avo had his hat. Lito has his thing. Like, everyone's got to have a little something that's memorable, that's repeatable. I think it's important.
Yeah, it's little details that, if someone said the guy that talks too much and wears sunglasses, they'd know it was me. Like, that's. But if you go like the generic white guy that smokes cigars, which one? Like, that's just what it is.
Yeah, the white guy with a podcast. Like,
yeah, another white guy with a podcast. That was one of the things. I'm like, if I'm gonna do this, I don't want to do it live. I want to just kind of talk and hang out, because otherwise, I think the two go well. Because we had guests on the infamous Smoke Show for a while, like, and I think either the guest was great and the chat was engaged, or it was like two things were happening at once, and you'd see a side conversation with the chat. And I'm like, if I'm gonna do this, I want to do offline. I just want to talk to you. I want to worry about something managing on the side, and that way it's more fun this way.
When you're live and you're managing a chat, you are serving two masters.
Yeah.
Right? On a conversation like this, the most important part is that we stay engaged. The minute it turns, and you can, as the person who's often being interviewed, you can feel it and see it when immediately the attention goes. And then, like, I feel like I'm stuck holding the bag until you're back. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's like someone's going to get neglected, one of the two. And it's like, which do I serve? The person I asked to be on my show, or the audience that keeps the show running? I don't know, because I'm insulting someone.
Yeah.
So at this point, yeah, I'd rather just hang out, chat, see what it is. So you do a lot of social media appearances, and you do a lot of podcast shows and something like that. Do you see that being more of an importance in the cigar industry moving forward, or is that just kind of something off to the side?
Look, the cycle of communication and discovery is spinning in the opposite direction it was when I started in the industry. When I started, a brand or a company would come up with something, and let's say that company was brand new. Then the brand would have to be attractive to the retailer. The retailer would discover that brand or blend at a trade show or at an in-store meeting. And then if the store liked it and believed in it, then the store would support it, now establishing brand to retailer. Then the retailer would evangelize it. Be so excited about this new discovery. Yeah, when a customer would come in, they'd say, oh man, you've got to try this. No one walked in asking what was new. The retailer would say, I got something new. You've got to try it. Then consumer would taste it. So now we go retailer to consumer of discovery. Consumer loves it. And then consumer starts evangelizing, telling other people in the lounge, and around we go. And then retailer orders more. And then now we've built something. Today, the expectation has swung in total opposite direction. The brands have to, quote, sell themselves. Well, cigars don't sell anything. People do.
Yeah.
But it's completely reversed. So now brand has to be created. Consumer has to discover it. And then consumer has to ask retailer for it enough times to convince the retailer that it's worth bringing in. And so now that's just the way it is. It's fine, but it's going in a different direction than it used to, which means that we have to make sure that we are communicating in the most effective way to the people who are going to drive business and awareness. And that is less and less retailers and more consumers. And caveat to that would be also retailers who are doing the same thing, who are finding new ways to communicate, who are staying up to date. And like it or not, that is much more in the online sphere of media, whether it's podcasts or social media or whatever, email blasts or Facebook feeds, that's just more dominating than the hand-to-hand combat of a trade show or an in-store visit. Now, I'm also old school, so I do both, which is why I was on the road as much as I was.
Yeah.
But you can't underestimate the reach that stuff like this has. You know, I mean, how many people are you going to talk to on the road? As many as show up. But when you're putting stuff out, it's evergreen, it stays forever. You know, I mean, that's so important. These are like, this is real assets that you're creating and putting out there, and that create this kind of snapshot moment in time that also kind of acts as an archive for your story. You know, I can go back and find interviews of me in 2012 talking about, you know, what I hoped to achieve when I created Timeless Collection. And now you go back and watch it. It's like, holy shit. You know, we did exactly what we hypothesized we were going to do. It's cool.
Yeah. And it's like you could create a video that 3 years later converts a customer versus going to a shop one time and hoping whoever was there tries what you do.
And we'll tell someone else.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a big thing is like, I didn't know much about you or look into you at all until you were at, I don't know what trade show it was, and you did some joke interview where you brought some guy into your storage facility, which I think is hilarious. And I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. I don't want to talk to this guy because it was something more than just, let me sit and tell you about what I do for the 14,000th time.
Which, by the way, that was Cigar Dojo. If you get a chance, just search Herklots and Cigar Dojo, because we have a history of doing just ridiculous interviews.
Okay.
2 of which occurred in a restroom, one at a urinal, one between stalls, and it's pretty funny shit. No pun intended.
So something fun, something different. I was like, oh, that's funny, because I got sent to me like, look at this shit, it's ridiculous, like as an insult, and I saw like, this is great. What are you talking about? This is hilarious.
That one actually did get a little more hate than I thought with the And I said, why don't we go into the conference room? If we're in,
I was like, you guys don't understand how expensive all that trade show shit is. You might as well make it a conference room too, because of how much people have to pay for it.
It was really funny, man.
Yeah. So I think that was awesome. I like that. I like more and more brands embracing not just doing what they do, but engaging in social media, because it has to be more than just ads, essentially.
Yeah.
I think that's
but you know as well as I do that when you feel like you have to do something, you can do it authentically, or you can do it
Forced.
Yeah, but also like you're like not even inspired, but basically almost copycatting, like
Sure.
I like what this person does. I like how this person does it. So I'm going to use all that and I'm going to apply that to the way I do it. But then it's usually just so painfully obvious that you're uncomfortable with it that it doesn't come across. So I feel like, you really have to amplify your most authentic stuff.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's just so transparently not you. And maybe that's why like that some of those videos I think get more pushback just because I think it's more surprising when I think people are most used to seeing me suited up, polished, doing like, very thoughtful industry based interviews that then, when I do a review of a shitty sandwich that I got at the trade show, everyone's like, what's he doing? But it's all me, you know what I mean? In a suit, in a hoodie, like you're gonna get the same guy.
Yeah, and that's a kind of a point I talked with Brian is they see one thing on camera like this is it. I'm like, no, there's a whole bunch. That's not just whatever personality you happen to see. They expect you to see, doing the short clips with music behind it. You're talking about something passionate, and then you do something funny like this is wrong. And I'm like, well, it's not. It's just another side of the same coin, and I hope you like this side too. It's like
That's it.
Yeah, people want me to be angry on camera or tell jokes, and I go into men's mental health, and some people get uncomfortable. I'm like, that's part of life, man.
Yeah, stick around.
I turn on the camera. Sometimes I'm not going to be a clown. That's just the way that it is. I'm not going to pretend. I can't do that. It wouldn't be funny if I did. Like, people don't understand that. It's not like you got to be you. And if
you got to be
like
you, man,
that's fine. There'll be
and if you like the suit version of me, no problem at all. Just scroll past these. Go find the suit version, and we'll talk rapper binder filler all day if you want.
Yeah, you don't have to watch. It's the weirdest thing. Like, well, I clicked on it, but you didn't have to.
Again.
You saw what the title is. Swipe on. There's 1,000 other pieces of content out there you can go watch. It's perfectly fine.
But I noticed you did leave a comment on how much you disliked the 30 minutes that you watched.
Right. Yeah. You watched the video and you made a reference to something that's at the end of the video, so you watched the whole thing. So you must have liked it a little bit.
It's like a cigar review that gets down to the end. If every photo, third by third, ash is perfect, construction perfect, the wrapper's stunning.
Yeah.
It gets a D- because it was sour or grassy or this, whatever. I remember I saw a review, and the review was absolutely scathing.
Sure.
Trash. Total trash.
Yeah.
And it was written with photos. And so I wrote to the guy on the side. I said, hey, first of all, thanks for it's a thoughtful review, and it's long form and beautiful pictures. And so thanks for doing it.
At the time, right.
I said, but I can't help but notice it looks like the construction is flawless. The wrapper looks beautiful. How was the draw? I mean, every photo seems even. And the guy wrote back, he's like, no, everything was great. I just didn't like the flavor. And I wrote back, I said, but if any of those things were wrong, you would have taken points off.
Sure.
But in this case, you've neglected to give any credit to all of the hardest parts of this. Like, if it's just the flavor you didn't like, no problem. I don't, it's foods I don't like. I just don't eat them. But you still have to recognize that it's probably the best of the best if you're in a great restaurant or whatever. So, like, we had this little exchange, and he apologized and said, it was a mistake. And I don't remember if he took down the review or he might have redid it, or maybe added like a little note at the end, like, by the way, construction was great. This was great. But, it's so tricky, whether it's a comment on a video or whether it's this, like, you're creating a score based on one piece of one thing without giving credit to the rest of the merit of the content, whether it's the content of this or the content of your video. And it's just, and look, that's life. Like, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. Who cares? That's that's just the way it goes. But it is frustrating as an artist when you're creating work, whether that is digital work or combustible work, that, you can lose points so fast, and I think people forget about how much is good to replace it with the small amount that you enjoy less, and then that's the part that you amplify. That's frustrating.
Yeah, and I've been there. I've completely trashed cigars, and then I'll usually end it with, most of the time, unless I think it's just a horrible experience, like, this isn't for me, because people get so mad. They fanboy brands so much. I'm like, look, I think this sucks. You can like it. Both are fine.
Yes.
The wildest thing. Like, just in general, that's how I had the small relationships I do have with Steve Saka. As my first interaction with him was me telling him that one of his cigars sucked, and he popped up in the comment section. And one of the reasons I love Steve, he went, okay, and gone with his fucking day. And I was like, I like you.
It doesn't hurt my feelings if you don't like it, but I would like to know why. And I'd also like to know, like, if you say if Ferio Tego sucks, I shouldn't have said that too, because now someone will clip this and say that I said Ferio Tego sucks. Ferio Tego does not suck, but you also have to drill down to blend. Like, we have a pretty wide book, So if you taste Elegancia and you're like, well, that's not for me, that doesn't mean Ferio Tego's not for you, because Generoso and TAA Timeless, those are like apples and bowling balls compared to Elegancia. Same with Suma, even. That's a completely different experience. So I also hope that when people do express their dissatisfaction with a particular blend, that they're also being thoughtful enough not to disparage the entire existence of a brand, because there's a lot more discovery to do, I think.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like, I assumed all your cigars were pretty similar, and the first one I tried, I didn't like. And then I picked up another. I'm like, no, I don't remember off the top of my head, but there's the one the second one I tried, I shot for some travel humidor. And as I was smoking, I'm like, hold on, this is wildly different. Yeah, I like this cigar. What's going on? I thought I hated this brand. And then I kept trying more. I'm like, nah, it's just, they're very, very different. Yeah. But when someone tells you this is the profile of a brand and you just take it at face value, it can ruin your experience.
Sometimes that's true. I mean, if you look at brands that are vertical, that are dependent on their own tobaccos, they often stay closer in style, blend to blend or line to line. I think part of the advantage we have of using 3 completely different manufacturers from 3 completely different countries is it really allows for a much wider, more dynamic range of creativity, and as a musician, I don't want to just play, one song in 4/4 and a 12-bar blues.
Right.
Like, you got to play everything, man. I want to swing. I want to play hard. I want to play fast. I want to play loud, quiet. Like, that's what feeds creation and artistry, is being able to apply your discipline in all these different styles. And that really is what this is. To have Elegancia and Generoso, for example, that are sort of our brother and sister, we do them together every year.
Yeah.
There's nothing similar about them.
No.
And we put them out together every year, because what is similar is the approach and maybe the mouthfeel to it to some extent. But otherwise, I'm a big wine guy. It's my equivalent of one's a red, one's a white. Or a chef, here's the fish of the day, here's the steak of the day. Well, if you don't eat meat, you're not eating the steak. It doesn't make it bad. It's probably a delicious steak, but it's just not for you. So I really love that yin and yang of Elegancia and Generoso and doing them together, because I think it's also an opportunity to explain through a product that we are different. To say out loud, this is made in Dominican, this is made in Nicaragua, this we do with Quesada, this we do with Plasencia. We're launching them together every year. It just reinforces that, okay, this is a very different proposition than other brands, blends, companies.
Yeah, you're multi-dimensional in what you do, and it's sometimes you just have to try more of the same line. It can be different, and that can be a good thing. And also, just because you have one bad cigar doesn't mean it's always going to be the same experience. I mean, it depends on what you're doing, how you're doing it. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I remember seeing a review, and the guy was, I can remember seeing his breath. It was so cold out.
Sure.
And he was outside smoking. I don't remember what it was. It might have been our Timeless Sterling, which is a mellow, smooth, as creamy as it gets. And I'm watching him, shade wrapper, it's an elegant, nuanced cigar.
Yeah.
It's not one that stands up to your breath in the air cold.
Right.
And he was so angry about it that the cigar was so bad. And I just remember thinking, like, what are you, I would be angry anyway. If I were freezing outside to do a cigar review for 45 minutes, like, I'm already starting bad. And what you've selected is not exactly appropriate for, 20-degree weather. It's just not going to stand up. But I hope that person went back and smoked it, like, in the comfort of the indoors by a fire, because Sterling would be the perfect thing.
Right.
In
Yeah.
that moment.
Yeah. It's about when we had the whatever Texas blizzard in 2021, where the whole state
Everything's
down.
down.
Yeah. I was like, this would be funny if I go shoot a review outside, and I grabbed the cheapest cigar I could, because I'm like, I know there's no way it's gonna be great, but it was still ended up being fine. But I'm like, this is a $3 cigar. If it sucks, no big deal. But
That's what makes it perfect for the moment.
Yeah.
You picked exactly what you needed. You want to burn something because it's funny. You don't want to.
Exactly.
You're not looking for a third by third review here.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna grab like a $30+ cigar. I'm like, all right, this will be hilarious to waste this cigar and also be incredibly uncomfortable the entire time. Like,
Not as fun.
kind of what it is. Yeah,
Right. Check the box. 5 minutes. Smoke the cigar. See you later. Hot chocolate.
yeah, exactly. Like that's just what it is. And it's good to give different brands another shot whenever you can. I'm like, I wouldn't, but if I based everything off the first cigar I smoked, that was some Timeless, I'd never smoke it again. But I'm like, no, let's just give it another shot. There's bound to be something you like. And the other thing is,
Timeless, bro. We got 4 different blends, 2 different countries. It's a when you start peeling back the onion layers of Ferio, there's a lot to discover between the brands, then the blends, then the sizes within.
Yeah. Well, and I think another thing that people don't think of is oftentimes what you like in cigars will change if you actually explore the world of what it is. For a long time, that's all I liked was creamy cigars. And for the past year, I've smoked shit that rips your face off. And that's pretty much all I've liked. But then you still go back, and it's like, it just depends on what your mood is. And your palate can change over time. It's just what it is. And
but the other thing I think more, when people say their palate changes, I think of it more as your palate evolving.
Sure.
It's not abandoning what you used to like. You're just creating more discernment. Like you have more ability to know exactly what you're in the mood for, where maybe you didn't before. You knew you were in the mood for a cigar. Maybe there were some brands in your mind, but over time, you can really apply your knowledge in a more thoughtful way to make better decisions, and so that evolution also allows you to go back to those ones that you used to like with such awareness and familiarity with it that you can also detect whether it's being maintained and preserved consistently or not.
Yeah, definitely. I think I think being education is important in industry, but it's really important in cigars because there's so much to it that people won't know why they like something. And I think it's good to actually look into, if not just what the makeup of the cigar is, but noticing what types of cigars you like, what flavor profiles you like, and kind of where these things come from. That's something that I've never looked into, is what different factories cigars come from, because I've never really cared. But eventually, if you look into it, you realize like, oh, these are the people actually making the cigars. You should probably find what you like. So like personally, anything that comes out of Pensa, I know I'm gonna like. So if I find that it comes from there, I'm like, yeah, I'm willing to try that. So education is just a big part of it. I think it's all about a little journey, as people like to say.
I think education is as important. It's only as important as the information that you're learning is and how it can be applied. Because let's face it, when I see people whether it's the plume versus mold debate, or the ash color debate, or ash texture debate, or toothiness, and people are blasting in the comments about their magnesium versus calcium, and it's like, hold on, guy, you are wrong. Like, I'm sorry, but you have to go way deeper, and there's not enough right information out there. So people learn wrong information, and then stand on the hilltops saying that what they've learned is right. But you learned it from someone else that learned it wrong. Like, it's not your fault. You just didn't spend enough time learning it. And that happens too with people that start making bold claims about the merit of this rapper or that rapper, this tobacco, that tobacco. And it becomes this, well, did you ever think about using Brazilian Matafina as a binder for your blend? Oh, well, that'll give it this. It's like, it's not, cigar science is not earth science. Cigar science isn't like mathematically proven science. You're taking random solids and you're putting them together to try and affect something that's better together than apart. And the minute you set that on fire and start pulling it, everything that you know to be true turns out not to be. You can replicate a blend somewhere else and it doesn't work. Like, all the things that you think work don't work. And so then you have to put them into practice, and you have to tweak, and you have to fix and change all these blends. And so when people start applying their consumer knowledge, but deliver it as a matter of expertise and practice.
Yes, fact.
It frustrates me a little bit, because it's people. I see people are learning wrong.
Yeah. And
then the problem is, today you can't engage it to correct it because it only becomes a comment war.
Yeah.
So then I never engage it. But it does come into play, certainly at events and stuff, when people will say, well, I always thought this, and this, because then you can answer it thoughtfully in a dialogue that makes it way easier to understand why what they're saying might be true, but not always true.
Yeah.
Or could have been true before, but not true in this case.
Yeah. No, if you comment online, you just digitally punched them, even though you were like, no, it's this bit. Yeah.
You punched and retreated.
Yeah, like, no, it's just you learned it incorrectly. And a lot of the times the way people learn things is some guy told them one thing once and like, oh, I guess it's fact. And that's just what it is. And no one looks into these different things. I mean, that's just kind of how it is. And especially in cigars, it's wild. You say something with enough confidence and you're right. And that's true with a lot of things, but in cigars, it's really true.
Well, that's also called sales and marketing. So there's a skill to that also, which is important. But on the flip side of that, I really believe in preserving the hobbies for people. We've really kind of adopted, or a subset of hobbyists have adopted this culture of needing to be an expert consumer, an expert hobbyist.
Sure.
But they're actually in the minority. I mean, if you look at most people who love cigars, and most of the cigars that are being purchased, let's say in the American market today, they are in exactly 0 Facebook groups about cigars. They don't identify any of their friends as cigar friends. They don't go to any blogs. They don't look at cigar videos. They just go to a cigar bar once a week and they smoke cigars with their friends, and that's it. And that's what cigars are to them, and that's what it should be. That's what so many of our hobbies are to us. Are just simple. You want a beer? I'll have beer. Yeah. You want an IPA? It sounds great. Are you interested in knowing what the hops are? I don't give a fuck.
Right.
I don't care. I don't. This one's too citrusy. It tastes like suntan lotion. Do you want to know why? I don't.
No, I just know I just don't like it.
I don't want the hazy one. That's all. Just give me something that's not like that. But that's as far, sometimes that's as far as you have to go. And cigars are really that way. But when you get into the subset of the group that just has to demonstrate their expertise all the time.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're giving up a bit of what made you fall in love with it in the first place.
Sure.
Which
Yeah,
you
I can
just,
see that.
you know, it's the one level up of just enjoying it with someone else. It's the enjoyment and the pleasure of the moment that makes this possible to enjoy. Who are you with, and where are you, and what are you doing? Like, that's the more important part. And then every once in a while you take a puff and you're like, fuck, is this as good as I think it is? Yeah, it's great. Yeah, oh, great. But let's get back to talking about something else, you know? It's what we're doing right now.
Right. Yeah, I think people dive too deep into, I mean, if you go too deep into this, you lose the enjoyment, which is why you wanted to do it in the first place. And I think that kind of ruins the whole thing. But going back to what you said, I think that's interesting because it's true. Most people who smoke cigars, I think a lot of social media is we put too much importance onto how important we are. Like, I don't think this is a impactful thing in the industry to begin with. We're like, well, I could give this cigar a bad review. I'm like, I don't think it's going to matter to 90% of what they say. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like, I just think that's the truth. I'm like, I don't think we're going to kill this guy's sales. That's why you shouldn't get mad that I gave you a bad review if I happen to. Like, in the grand.
Let's face it. These things have created a radical illusion of self-importance.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm always reminded when this is turned off and you're just back in the real world that it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, it just doesn't matter. Like, when you get outside of cigar world, I'm just my kid's dad and my wife's husband. You know what I mean? It just doesn't, none of it matters. It only matters in your little bubble. And then, so the problem is we spend more time in our little bubbles because that's where we feel more valuable. And then when you start serving that, man, that's a tough existence because everything outside of that must be so disappointing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it even messes up like internal groups in the little community that we have. Is people hang out with the people that praise them so much for whatever knowledge or experience they have in this industry. I'm like, dude, if you step away, none of this shit matters. If YouTube purges every cigar channel tomorrow, my life, the only thing that's going to change, I'm not going to hang out in my garage as much. That's pretty much it. Like,
and by the way, look at the biggest, most successful, most respected players in our industry.
Yeah.
You've never even seen them. I mean, you look at the real tobacco buyers for the serious companies. These guys know more about tobacco than every YouTube video combined.
Yeah.
These guys are traveling to Indonesia and the Philippines, and they're buying tobacco. They see it. They know it. This guy just passed away, Fritz. I've known him for years. He was Lancaster Leaf. I mean, these guys, the knowledge they have and the ability to have conversations with them, it's just staggering what they know. And they're just simple tobacco people, man. You know, they're not, I'm surprised that they even have a smartphone, right? They're just too busy. And like, you know, sometimes I think we have to remind ourselves that if you really love it, well, spend your time learning more about it from the people who know and listen to them.
Yeah.
Rather than trying to be the expert teaching people the few things that you've remembered.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's something because I don't try and look up too many cigars before I smoke them. And I'll even ask like, hey, I think it's this because I read it somewhere. But if it's wrong, tell me and educate people in the comment because I don't know. Like, yeah, I'll read. I'm like, just tell me. I'm not gonna look it up. If it irks you that I don't know, educate the people in the comment section because I don't care.
But you know what? Look, as a musician, like I think musically all the time.
Sure.
Generally, someone's first exposure to a band is a song.
Yeah.
And you just hear it. Like, that's the first run. Or maybe someone says, hey, check this out and plays it for you or sends it to you. But either way, your first exposure is the most natural organic, emotional reaction that it could possibly be. It's the most thoughtful review.
Yeah.
Because it's just organic, right? I've never bought an album or before listening to a song,
Sure.
looked up where they recorded, what kind of microphones did they use, how many takes did they who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Like none of that really matters. Now, if I love the song, now I might go see, hey, who's playing on this? Or like, I'm a drummer. So I might, who's the drummer on this? This is killer.
Sure.
You might go down that rabbit hole a little bit and then it's still interesting. But, if someone's like, hey, check out this song, you're not going to be like, well, just curiously, what studio did they record it at? I'm just, before I give it any of my attention, I'd like to know the following things. Come on, bro. Just listen to it. If you go like this, good song. If you don't, it's not.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that affects people's perception of cigars so much. So like, well, that person made it, or it's tied to this person's face, who really is just the face of the company. Well, I hate that cigar now. It's like, well, did you try it? No. Like, well, someone made a cigar. Did you try that? No, but I bought a box. Okay.
Well, look, but on the flip side of that, once you become a fan of anything,
sure,
then you're in, because you have an affection for that band, for that brand, whatever it is. And so that kind of brand loyalty and fandom, I think is an important part of consumerism.
Sure.
But from the moment of discovery, it should be a more organic approach, I think.
Yeah.
So if you love Ferio Tego and we come out with something new, as a fan of Ferio Tego, I hope you go into it wanting to love it.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you don't. But that's different than I'm going to, hey, try this cigar for the first time and let me know what you think. I've never heard of it before. Don't go do research. No, just fire it up, right? That's why the person's sharing it with you. Someone's sharing it with you because they already love it. What more do you need than the authentic endorsement of someone you already know and love and respect and admire? If they say, hey, I dig this, check it out. Boom, right now, let's go. I'm in.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's great to be more in the moment with something than trying to learn about it before trying it. But on the same side, I mean, you can buy an album by a band for like, let's say go back and a CD was $20. That sucks kind of, but it sucks way more buying a box for $400 without ever trying one of the cigars. Like, that's the way people are right now. And they're like, yeah, well, so-and-so made it, so I'll buy it right away. I'll pre-order it before it's even ready to go. And this industry, and then they'll complain about the price of cigars going up. I'm like, well, you guys are driving. You did it. That was you just now. Like, that was you. They said, here, try this for $500 or $20, and you went $500 right away. And then you ended up not liking it. And I'm like, it just depends on what people want to do with their time and their money. I'm like, you could still try something before going all in. But I think if you're going to go the buy a box before you try one route, you don't get to complain that the cigars go up next year because you just told the...
Nor do you really get... I mean, I guess you can. What should I... It's freedom. I guess you can complain. But if you're going in blind, spending that kind of bread...
Yeah.
And you don't like it, I guess you can complain that you don't like it.
Sure.
But you can't get mad that you spent the money because you did it.
Right. Yeah. No one told you to buy a box before you bought a single. Like, that's not how these are sold. They're not sold only in boxes. They're
I guess some stuff is, but...
Yeah, but for the most part, like, you're not going to... The only way to buy it, but it's just the way that people are, is that they'll do that and then they'll complain that the price goes up the next year.
Well, and life is full of hard choices, and it's either met with happiness or disappointment in those choices.
Sure.
Like, that's, it's what you buy at the store for groceries too.
Yeah.
Right? You get home, the apple's mushy, you're frustrated, right?
Yeah.
But that's the way life goes, You just move on, you toss the apple, it is what it is.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So definitely. So what does... You just did the Summa, which is the summary of your work, essentially. Yeah. What's after the summary?
New work.
Okay.
I still think, again, like thinking musically. there are moments where you're doing a lot of writing and a lot of creative, and then you do recording and you memorialize it, and then you go on tour and you perform it.
Sure.
And no one wants to come see a band that's going to do 90 minutes of all new material. Oh, like you're there to hear the hits. And I really think I apply that same kind of discipline to our portfolio. I mean, Ferio Tego is only 3 years old. That's brand new. And now we're obviously a very unique story. So we have a pretty comprehensive portfolio for a 3-year-old brand.
Definitely.
Does Ferio Tego need more new stuff? Because the last time I checked, 3 years is still pretty new.
Yeah.
And so I'm a big believer in making sure that we're just playing our hits over and over. I don't believe, I don't subscribe to the idea that every month there's a new story that you have to learn.
Sure.
And that everyone has to learn. That's a lot to ask of people.
Yeah.
I think, now we tell this story again every year, but nevertheless, Ferio Tego Elegancia is something I want you to be able to fall back on anytime.
Yep.
Like it's something your favorite music, the one that you know exactly what song to play in that particular moment when you need it. That is very powerful. And I think cigars are exactly the same way. And so I don't feel strongly about having to constantly come out with new.
Yeah.
I think it's more important to constantly remind people what we have and how good it is, and to continue to fall back to it, Yeah. So we may have some size extensions. We just did, for example, some fresh packs. So we released Timeless in all 4 blends in 6x50, which we didn't have. And then we have them in boxes, and we have them in a 4-pack assortment fresh pack. So we're not writing new material. We're just packaging some of our hits in a friendlier way for you to be able to discover them.
Yeah.
To me, that's a more thoughtful investment for us as a new business than, well, if you didn't like all of these, here's another story that you have to tell. Yeah. And then it's like starting all over again, man,
Yeah. Yeah. A new cigar coming out every single year is so saturating to whatever a brand is doing. I hate it. Because most of the time,
dude, every year.
Yeah,
that's almost refreshing compared to the cadence of some of these new releases, man.
Yeah.
You got companies that are literally once a month, once a quarter, new release, limited this, limited that. Like, wow, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And good for them. I mean, those are companies with marketing departments, and they have lots of people, and so that if that's the heartbeat of your business, great. But that's just not how Ferio Tego is going to do it, man.
No,
which is not a novel idea, by the way.
Yeah, right.
We're applying a very old world approach.
Sure.
In a very old world industry that has just been transitioned into a rather new world, memeified, 2025 instant gratification approach. I'm a hard pass on that.
Yeah. Well, that's because, it's been proven over the past at least couple of years that if they put out a limited edition cigar, people will blind buy it, and it's got cash grab at this point. So if you can, why wouldn't you? And that's just what it's turned into.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm like, is it limited because they only put out this much and you guys bought into the marketing buzz of limited edition? And the answer is probably yes. Like, if you hold back 90% of the line so you can release it every quarter and then keep calling it limited, it's not limited. It's just not.
Yeah. I mean, even with Elegance and Generoso, like we call this an annual limited release. Limited insofar as how many we make every year, and we make them again every year. So it's not a limited edition.
Yeah.
I hope they are always on the shelf, but it's which vintage are you getting, and gives you the opportunity to taste through. But
that also can tie into the size of a cigar company. I mean, any cigar they make is a limited edition if they could only make so many. Like, that's just what it is. Like, but the way that these people buy like limited editions, it's like, well, this is, even if it was would you want to fall in love with an Ellie that only comes out once? Because then you could never have it again. Like at that point, you're buying a song that you can only listen to a certain amount of times, and then it's gone for forever. Which might be cool in theory, but then people don't listen to the song; they hoard them for forever because they only have so many left.
I don't want to be the cigar you save, man. I don't want to be the trophy on your shelf that you never smoke. I want to be the go-to that you always smoke. When you don't want to smoke your trophy, you're just going to look at it, brush the dust off, brush the plume or mold off, whatever's on it.
Yeah, sure.
But then, like, so what are you going to smoke? Smoke mine, please.
Right.
Do me a favor. Buy those, look at them, worship them, smoke mine.
There you go. That's what you got to do. Yeah, so going into Ferio Tego, how come I'm just curious, you changed the meaning to be strike and defend instead of slay and bury, which I find way more interesting, especially as a company.
I don't know that I've seen the slay and bury. I mean, there's so many different translations.
Sure.
The Ferio Tego. The context of Ferio Tego for us is the way the context is on my family coat of arms.
Sure.
And so the image specifically is Hercules striking the Hydra.
Yeah, slaying the Hydra, yeah.
And that story was Hercules defending his village from the evils of the Hydra, whatever. And so when you look at the story of the Herklots coat of arms, it says in that Ferio Tego and then parens strike. It actually says strike and dispel. Oh. But strike and dispel doesn't sound great to me. No. There's also use of Ferio Tego in military. There's a regiment called Ferio Tego, and they always used strike and defend. Yeah. And I thought, I like that one better. So we went with strike and defend. Although slay and bury, I love.
I don't know. I saw that. I was like, Tego, bury enemies in the ground of an enemy bench. So I was like, that's dope. I would have that be. Yeah.
To a limited edition called Slay and Bury.
Slay and bury. I'm like, that's dope, man. That's like we were talking to Jonas from Blackbird, and the reason he did birds is because he's trying to go against the eagles that are already established. And I asked him, I was like, all right, well, are you ever gonna make an eagle cigar? And he's like, no, I'm gonna make a murder of crows. I'm like, that's way cooler. So I love that. I dug that so much. I'm like, I like that. Jonas from Blackbird, yeah. He's like, I'll do a murder of crows. I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool, man. So, what to you, since you're always evolving and your music is your passion and cigars is your passion, what does victory look like for a Ferio Tego? Like when would you be able to ascend the mountaintop and be like, enough is enough? Is that even a concept that you think about?
You're creative, man. I mean, I can't think of anyone I respect as an artist, chef, winemaker, musician. I don't know of anyone who's stopped practicing.
Sure.
Now I know plenty of people who claim to be experts in all of those fields who are probably not getting any better. Sure. That's fine. I thrive on getting better. So to me, it's like music. It's like a martial art. I mean, it's not like when you get black belt, you're like, boom, right. That's it.
Yeah.
See you, boys. It's like there is no end point in development and perfection. There's just no such thing. And so I guess it comes down to, are you happy just being at the level that you are? And I've never been artistically. There's always been, something to evolve, something to do different. As a drummer, there's always a new style to learn. A new drummer comes out and you hear him play a fill that's so outside of your style that you spend hours trying to break down exactly what they're playing and how, just to be able to do it. Not that you would ever actually apply that in a performance.
Sure.
But just to say, okay, I understand that approach and that style. And to me, this is the same thing. So I can't imagine, God, I hope that I don't get to a point where I'm like, boom, there it is.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know,
Or you can
there are,
you're done.
and it's, and how can you be
Right.
like, it's my entry date was June of 1999. There are hundreds of years of people who were before me, thousands of years.
Sure.
I've had the good fortune of working with the generation that was there when I arrived, right? And so many of them were much my senior. And when you look at the work ethic that they have, look, I mean, I'll just use the Plasencia and Quesada are the two that I've spent the most time with throughout my career.
Sure.
Man, every day is work and learning. They open up, you walk up to one pilone that's fermenting and something isn't going the way it should. And there's learning. It's constant. Next year, there's more rain. What's the consequence of more rain? Well, usually it means that that it's milder and it's going to need less time in processing. And so let's see if that's the case, because last time we had this, we grew Criollo, but this time we grew Corojo, and is it going to respond the same? That type of just dynamic evolution of learning and perfecting and learning and perfecting and applying and practicing. I mean, that's why we want to be artists.
Yeah.
The minute you stop painting, it's over.
Sure.
So I don't, that was a very long answer to a very simple question. I don't think we have victories along the way, obviously. I mean, CA rating, victory. Being invited to an interview with you, victory. Like these are wins. These are recognitions of success and achievements.
Sure.
But it's not like, with all due respect to this interview, I'm not going to be like, that was it.
Right. Yeah.
That was it. And it's never going to get better. It was, Pick Jimmy was, I've reached the summit and I will never have to do another interview again. Because there's more to say, there's more to do, so I just don't see it.
No, yeah, that's good. I like asking that question because sometimes it's as simple as like, yeah, when we get bought, then it's over. I'm like, well, this is done now. The wind are out of the sails, so thanks, and have a great day. That's like what it is.
I feel like that's a very pop answer versus like a jazz answer.
Sure.
You write pop music, so it hits now. Write pop, make it hit now, and you're trying to write hits to hit charts. Whereas if you look at jazz musicians, they already know life is hard. They already know the pop guys are going to make more money. They already know that they're going to sell out stadiums and these guys are going to play a room for 40 people. But they're the ones who are practicing all the time, trying to get better, doing warm-ups, doing scales, doing all that stuff over and over and over and over and over again, man. That's, I take a non-pop approach.
Sure. Yeah. Do you think you'll ever incorporate music more into your line of cigars more than just metaphorically?
I think that really starts to that's the fine line of gimmick,
Yeah.
I believe in being inspired by things that inspire, but not then applying a literal
Sure.
depiction of my inspiration.
You think that ruined it somehow?
I don't know. I mean, like Avo did it, and he had the XO series and the prelude and the intermezzo and incorporating all that musical stuff. But it was done, it wasn't dressed in a piano box.
Sure.
Not until after he passed away. Did it become more of that kind of marketing incorporation of the literal music? But I suppose you have to do that when the physical has departed, right? Then I guess you have to incorporate more of the literal depiction of inspiration, since the physical one isn't there to share it. But as long as I'm on this side of the earth, I can't imagine doing that more literal, although it is funny, I was thinking about bringing a drumstick down to the factory to see if we could make a mold in the shape of the stick to kind of tweak the perfecto shape.
That'd be interesting.
but it's such a cheese dick move, you know?
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah.
But I'm so hard on ideas like that, and there's probably people who would love it.
Yeah.
You know, there might be consumers that absolutely love it.
See a lot of people just breaking their cigars, being stupid with it.
I don't know. I want to be authentic to the category too. This is cigars, it's not music.
Yeah.
So I think you apply your inspiration artistically in the work that you're doing, but you got to keep the work true. No different than a great cigar smoker who's a jazz musician. They're not incorporating their love of cigars into everything they play.
Right.
You know? So I think we keep them separate. Although we blurred the lines. Like I've done events and they've had bands there or they've had music there, and they said, "Hey, do you want to play?" Like, great, I'll sit in and play. You know, so we blur some lines once in a while. But
sure,
I don't know.
Yeah,
it's a little
noisy,
though.
Sure. Then what at the same time that drumstick shaped cigar is all of a sudden incredible, and you're like, oh, then this is so. What if you do? What if you don't? You know,
I might do it.
Yeah. I mean, not that you would want people to buy a cigar and not smoke it. I'm sure there's people like, yeah, I bought it. It's got a drumstick, and they keep it in their humidor. And when they're showing people whatever, like, yeah, look, it's a drumstick. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure that I know there'd people that buy and just sit on them because that'd be interesting. I mean, not literally, hopefully, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might be worth it.
Yeah. I mean, very at least as it'd still be it. Even if you did it like as an LE, it'd be an LE that was specifically different than just, yeah, it's a new blend. No, it's actually something that sets it apart. And I don't know, it'd be interesting at the very least. I know that much. But yeah, I could definitely see blending the line between music and cigars. You don't want to go to the point where it's corny. Like, I think El Septimo does a pretty good job with their artistry series, but like even then, I'm not buying the cigar or trying it because it's named after someone that I might like their paintings, you know? Right. It's just not the same.
Well, that's the other thing. I would never want to incorporate someone else's likeness
to
ours. Like, I wouldn't want to name a line of cigars after my favorite drummers.
Right.
You know, it's that feels strangely forced.
Yeah.
And distracting.
Yeah.
And confusing.
Yeah. Just not what you want to do.
Yeah. It's not right for us. Good for Septimo.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely something. I like the idea of the cigar though. It's pretty cool. Let's see. So I think we've gone through pretty much everything. Just in general, anything you wanna tease that's coming up in the future, or are you just riding high right now?
You know, I don't have anything to tease other than we're going to continue to put out great blends that are consistent. And,
sure,
you know, it's the same amount of time, it's the same amount of energy, same amount of money, maybe more to do it this way. But it's just our core belief that if we release something that is core, then that also means that that's our commitment to you that we're going to honor with every single production, despite the fluctuations that happen in the field, in the farm, at the factory, through processing. We will do our job. So don't forget about us just because we don't have a flavor of the month every month.
Right.
Rely on us that we are going to be the same every single production, size by size, blend by blend, brand by brand.
That's awesome. Appreciate that, man. Appreciate you coming on. I'll do something this weekend in the future, man.
I can't wait, man. I'd love to do it.
Awesome.
And thanks. Keep doing what you're doing, man. There's obviously no shortage of content, but there is a shortage of thoughtful content.
Sure.
And this has been great. And I love watching you. So just keep doing it.
Appreciate it, man. All right. Thanks.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
And as a reminder, please follow me over on Rumble, TikTok, and Instagram if you have them. Links are in the description down below. Just in case things ever go belly up here on YouTube, we want to make sure the bushel stays together.